Let's go take a look at how to program in R. Different programming concepts that are necessary to collect, store, and retrieve information in the programming environment are. Although R is really more of a statistical environment, it's actually quite suitable for a number of other different programming tasks. We're going to take a look at how to install R and the associated IDE, RStudio. You should be able to locate the key websites for R, install R and RStudio, and also be able to launch R and RStudio, and then work at least with a few simple commands in R and learn how to save workspaces so you can resume your work at a later point in time. R is available for a number of different platforms, including Windows, Mac OS, as well as Linux. To download R, you go to the R project website, locate the correct installation file for R, download that file, and then click on it to install it. Here's what the main website for rproject.org looks like. To download R, there's a couple of different ways you can do this. The simplest way to do this is on the home page. You're going to find a link to download R. If you click on that, it's going to take you to a number of different places where you can download the various R installations. Find the place closest to you and make sure that you find one that is at least on your continent so that you reduce the amount of transmission you do over the internet over long distance lines. So I'm located in the United States, so I'm going to scroll down and find the US websites, and you can click on any one of these here. So I'm going to pick one that's closest to me. I'm going to pick the one here in Pittsburgh. So now I'm at the installation site for the Pittsburgh mirror for R. I'm on a Windows platform, so I would download the Windows version of R. But of course, if you're on a Mac, you should be using the Mac OS X version of R. Or perhaps if you have a Linux computer, you may download the R for Linux installation. So let's go ahead and try that out. So now what you want to do is you want to go and look at the right installation. What you most likely want to do is install the base. In fact, if you just click on this link right here called Install R for the first time, you're going to get everything that you need. The other items here are contributory packages and R tools. Those are the ones you might need for things like database access, specialized statistical computations, web development, and so on. We're not going to need any of those for the moment, although we're going to install some of those contributory packages and tools at a later point in time when we start using R for database access. So your key for Windows at least is to install R for the first time, and that's going to take you to the main website for downloading R. And this is probably the one that you want to pick, R312, which right now, as of this recording, is the latest version of R. And I'm assuming, of course, that you have a recent installation of Windows, Windows 8 or perhaps Windows 7, and not an earlier version of Windows. If you do need more help in downloading, you can also go to Installation and Other Instructions, and perhaps if you've got an older version of Windows, you can go ahead and look at some of the other versions here. I would recommend, by the way, that you run the 64-bit version of R, which allows you to work with larger data sets. Although in practice, that's not going to make much of a difference. Either the 32-bit version or the 64-bit version will run just fine on Windows 8 and Windows 7. If you have an older version of Windows for some reason, then you may want to go ahead and run the 32-bit version of R, which for most exercises and lab work in this course is not going to make much of a difference. But if you do use R in practice, then the 64-bit version is going to be more suitable, because it allows you to have a much larger memory space and therefore load much larger data sets. Once the download has finished, you need to locate the installation file. In Windows, you would very likely go into your downloads directory on or that you've set up for your browser. If you then double click on it, it's going to guide you through the installation. Once that's done, on both Mac and Windows, you're going to get some kind of a shortcut icon. In Windows, it appears on the desktop, most likely, or in your program files. If you then click on or double click on that icon, it's going to launch R for you. And then once you launch it, this is what the R console is going to look like. R is really mostly command line based, so you know, typing in commands right here is going to help you execute a lot of the R commands we're going to talk about. Although we're not going to need it right away, I would also recommend that you download at this point in time RStudio, which is an IDE, an integrated development environment for R, that makes building larger programs in R much simpler than doing that from the command line or the scripting environment within R. You can download RStudio from rstudio.com. It's actually a commercial product, but they do have their um, distribution under an open source license so that you can actually download it for free as long as you use it for non-commercial work. And here's what the website for RStudio looks like. Really, to get to it, all you got to do is click on the download RStudio button. And if you don't happen to get it on your desktop here, you'll also find it down here. You can click on this button right here, and you can of course always click on the products part up here and click on RStudio. Note, by the way, that the company also has additional products like Shiny, which is a web development environment for building websites in R, and a number of additional R packages. They also provide for commercial work, webinars, support, online training, consulting, workshops, and so on, and they also publish a number of different books. So when you start using R in a commercial environment at work, then some of these resources from RStudio might be quite helpful. And of course, you're going to find some information about pricing here as well. So the key thing is download RStudio for now, similar to how you downloaded R, and then when it's done, just launch it just to make sure it's launching properly. Again, it works fine on both Windows and the Mac. As you're executing commands in the R scripting environment, it's sometimes useful to save the workspace from one session to another so that you don't have to recreate all of your objects, data frames, and so on from one session to the next. You can do that in R by using the file save workspace and file load workspace mechanisms. So right here in R, that would simply mean that you click on save workspace. You're going to get a way of helping you locate the right folder to put it in, and then just save it. It saves it actually as an R data file. It's a binary image, and then next time around, if you just load that workspace, you're going to get back all the command history, all of your objects the same way that they were before you quit the session. This can be very useful to save work between one session and the next. Otherwise, you're going to lose all of your data objects and you're going to have to rebuild them. So to summarize, in this lesson, you learned how to locate the key resources for R for installing R in RStudio. We showed you how to launch R and be able to use its command prompt. And then we showed you how to save and load workspaces so that you can retain your objects from one session to the next. So at this point in time, you're ready to go on and start learning about the basics of R programming.